Okay, well now let's look at the actual formula we're going to use to compute simple interest. So for a simple interest loan, where this letter capital I is the amount in dollars that you're going to pay in interest, how do you compute that capital I? Okay, so that amount over the duration of the loan is given by this formula right here. The amount of interest I is the principal amount, that's the amount of the loan, times the interest rate times the time. So you'll need to memorize this. I equals PRT, and everything is defined right here. P is the principal amount, or the amount that you borrowed in dollars. R is the interest rate per year, usually written in decimal form, like 0.06 would be a 6% loan. So usually we write it this way. T is the interest time in years. And then, as we mentioned, capital I is the total interest paid in dollars. I'm going to make one note here. This is almost always the case. The interest rate is almost always per year, and the time is almost always in years. They have to be the same. But you could, say, have an interest rate of 1% per month, and then the time would not be the number of years, it would be the number of months. So this just needs to match up with the R and the T. Just make sure your units in time are consistent. All right, so before we look at all our problems, we're going to do 5 or 6 problems. This formula can be used to solve all of them. And in all the cases, you're going to be given 3 out of these 4 variables, and you simply need to compute the one that they're asking for. Now, sometimes you might need to do a little extra work. They might give you the time not in years, but in decades or in months or weeks or something like that, and you might have to do some conversions, but this is the formula we're always going to end up using. All right, number 7, let's compute the interest paid on a loan amount of $2,200 at a 9% interest rate for 18 months. Well, compute the interest paid, that's capital I. It's saying compute I. On a loan amount of $2,200, well, $2,200 is P, the principal amount. At 9% interest rate, little r would be the interest rate, so I'm going to put r, and I'm going to say r equals 0.09, because that's how you write 9% as a decimal. And then t, the interest time in years, we're not going to put 18. We're going to put, let's see, 18 needs to be divided by 12. And that'll give us the number of years. So how could we rewrite that? That would be 3 over 2, or 1.5 years, which I'm going to write as 1.5. So t is equal to 1.5. You all know that 18 months is 1.5 years, 1.5 years. Okay, so the formula, I'll write it again. I equals PRT, and we happen to be looking for I. Well, that's going to be 2,200, that's P, the principal. R is 0.09, and T, we said, is going to be 1.5 years, 1.5. So let me plug that into the calculator. And oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake there, didn't I? 2,200 right here. So it's $2,200 times 0.09 times 1.5, and that gives us 297, which, since we're asking for interest, it's dollars, so the answer would be $297 in interest. So if you borrow $2,200 for a year and a half and use 9% interest, you're going to have to pay this much in interest, $297. So the total amount you'd pay back at the end would be the $2,200 plus this $297, which is the interest. All right, the next one. Melissa borrows $300 for 6 months at 1% simple interest, very important, per month. How much interest will she pay in total? So once again, we need to find capital I. How much interest will she pay? So here's a comment. I'm gonna just prove something I said a little bit earlier. Here's the formula. And it's saying that R and T have to have the same units. They could be months or years. So we're going to do it in two different ways and make sure we get the same answer. We're going to use months once, and once we're going to use years. So we'll use months first. So let's see. Melissa borrows $300. P is 300. If we're going to use, let me write this down. P equals 300. What is 6 months? That's our time. That's our T. And we'll stick with months this time. And then we'll go to years the next time. 6 months at 1% simple interest per month. So our rate is 0.01. That's 1%. Again, we're doing this in months. So how much interest is she going to pay in total? Well, all we need to do is I equals P R, actually that's T. I'll go ahead and do them in the correct, in the same order. We get the same answer, but 300 times 0.01 times 6. And let's see, plug that into the calculator. I get 300 times 0.01 times 6, and we get $18. So I is equal to $18. I'll go ahead and put the dollar sign on it. Now let's do it in years. Well, if we're using years, the principal amount is still the same. P is $300. Now, what is time? Time is not going to be 6, is it? It's going to be 6 months over 12 months in a year gives me 1/2 of a year. This is in years. 6 months is half of a year. And what are we missing? Rate. Now we have to figure out if the interest rate is 1% for every month, how much would the interest rate be for 12 months? Well, it would be 12 of these, 12 times 1% or 12%. Doesn't that make sense? That if you're paying 1% interest every single month for 12 months, you're going to end up paying 12% overall. And I like to write this as a decimal, so it's going to be 1.12, and T is going to be 0.5. Okay, so let's see what happens. Interest equals P, which is 300, then R, which is 0.12, and T is 0.5. So when I plug that into the calculator, I get 300 times 0.12 times 0.5 equals, and I get exactly 18, just as we expected. So I is equal to $18. So you just need to make sure that you're consistent with the units of time in your interest rate, and 99% of the time it's going to be an annual interest rate. So they're not going to give it to you in 1% per month. They might once in a while, but it'll be very rare. It's almost always going to be in an annual interest rate.